Family History Training. A summary of resources for priesthood leaders and family history consultants, turning hearts of the children to their fathers.
Well, welcome to Resources for Priesthood Leaders and Ward Councils. It's great to have you with us this afternoon, and I'm especially excited to talk about this with you. So today we're going to talk about how you as leaders can help the members that you serve have a good family history experience and the resources that are available to you. Now, family history and temple work have the opportunity to help others better observe and keep the Sabbath day holy. Temple and family history service helps us prepare for and become better missionaries. Participating in temple and family history can help with the reactivation of members. When you think about new converts, they're going through a set of spiritual experiences. And if they have the opportunity when they're learning about this church and learning about the gospel and its doctrine to also be finding family names and having a spiritual experience with that, and then taking those names to the temple after they've joined the church, and then also having that spiritual experience to be able to then teach their family the things that they've learned and about family history, these spiritual experiences make a huge difference for them. And we know that participating in temple and family history service strengthens families, which is what we're focused on. So as we look back and prepare to go forward, we've been given some very simple steps for how to do that. We've been asked to find, take, and teach. Find the names of our ancestors, take them to the temple, and then most importantly as well, teach others to do the same. As we go through this presentation today, I invite you to really think about the things that are being revealed to you. There's going to be specific things that you're taught that will work with whom you have stewardship over. And so I invite you to jot those down. We're going to have various people today sharing what they have done to see success in their wards and in their stakes as a priesthood leader. And those will prompt you to do things yourself. And so I invite you to write those down as we go through this today. Now, it's very important that as a priesthood leader, you have also had this opportunity to find, take, and teach for yourself. What we have found as we've gone out and worked with stake leaders and ward leaders is that when a priesthood leader has had this own opportunity himself to start with, it makes a world of difference. And so I've invited some individuals to be with us today to talk about that and share those experiences. The first stake that I'd like to share with you is about the Gilbert, Arizona Highland West stake. And so I've invited Lance McIntosh, the multi-area manager for North America, to share what they have done.
The story starts, though, back when this stake was submitting at a rate of about 2 to 3%, which, as you know, if you've been to the conferences before, that used to be about the stake average, or the world average for stakes was about 2.5%. Their inspiration for their story, though, started with a number of things. President Barker actually gave us this quote, so I'm going to read this to you. He said, "It made no sense to me that a stake as strong as ours should only have 2 or 3 out of every 100 finding names." He said, "We began to have feelings and then became convinced that we needed to do something and that it should be a major something." So President Barker said that the first thing he did is he realized that he had never submitted a name to the temple. So he went and talked to his 2 counselors and found out that he was 0 for 3. So then he reached out to the High Council, the clerk, and the executive secretary and found out that they were 0 for 17 in submitting names to the temple. He said to me, "We then stumbled upon find, take, and teach." But President Barker said the first thing they realized after they found out that they were 0 for 17 in submitting themselves is that one of the most important aspects of what they were doing is that they had to lead by example. As leaders, they had to do it themselves. So President Barker went out and he challenged all of the leaders in the stake to find a name, take it to the temple, but then to reach out to as many people as they could and train others on how to do it, right back to Elder Cook's find, take, teach. But keep in mind, though, that this was prior to Elder Cook discussing this at ROOTSTECH. So they again stumbled upon Find, Take, Teach on their own. So now we're going to jump forward here. Meryl, if you'll advance this slide for me. In April of 2014 is when we started watching this stake, because we were able to track the numbers of submitters and the rates. And we noticed that in April of 2014, so about a little bit after they had started this inspiration, their number of submitters, their rate went up to 4.7, so almost 5%. In July of that year, Family Search released the hinting feature, the descendancy feature in Family Search in the tree, and the stakes average then went up to 7.9. So I want you to stick with me a bit from these numbers. So 4.7 to 7.9 in a couple of months. In October, they had a temple day where the stake presidency challenged all the members to make sure that they brought their own family names to the temple. So this was in October of 2014, same year. They had then gone up to 28.4%. A month later, they had their stake conference, which they'd been focusing on as well, and their numbers went up to 29%. In April of 2015, so about 1 year after we as a department started to watch what they were doing, they hit 42%. So almost, well, I guess you could say almost half of the stake was then submitting names to the temple. And that pretty much occurred in 1 year. So the real keys to this that I want you to go away with are these. First off, it was leader-led. If President Barker had not taken the lead and been an example to others, I don't think they would have been nearly as successful. He told us that the descendancy feature in the family tree was essential to him as well. Going back to some of the teachings we've had in earlier ROOTSTECH with Elder Anderson and Elder Cook, they were finding cousins. But he said here was one of the key things as well, and Steve Rockwood mentioned this morning. They had the ability to have quick successes. And he said if they went and tried to help somebody else and train somebody else, he said if we couldn't find a name within 30 minutes, they were not nearly as successful. But then probably the most important thing was the teaching aspect of Find, Take, Teach. Their model of going out and teaching others is what made them extremely successful and has continued their growth. Now, since April, they've had a little bit of a decline, but it's interesting. We've had some recent conversations with President Barker, and he's actually challenged the stake now to go out and do, as a stake, he wants to do 60% by the end of 2016. And it'll be really interesting for us to continue to watch them to see how they do.
So one of the things that I hope you noticed with both of these examples, both with Gilbert, Arizona and with Lyon, France, is the priesthood leaders had their own experiences doing family history, and they took the lead then, sharing that witness with those around them. And they also went out and did it themselves. They didn't necessarily come to headquarters and say, what do we do? They used their keys and their inspiration so that they could go do it with what they felt they needed to do. Another example that we have that I'd like to share briefly has to do with in Lisbon, Portugal. It's Bishop Jose Andrade. He was the bishop of the Tejo ward. And this last year, they have had tremendous growth. And so we actually got an email from him that I wanted to share and just read a few key things about his area that are just astounding. And so his ward decided again under inspiration to focus on family history. And after 1 year of basically having a family history activity once a month, the ward council got together and talked with one another to say, so what effects did it have on us? We've had this focus, we've talked about it once a month, we've done activities. What actually then was the result? And this is from Bishop Andrade. I found that one of the main reasons for which this work has progressed in our unit was the desire to have a temple. For those of you that know this area, a temple was announced in October 2010 by President Monson, and thankfully it just broke ground in December of 2015. So now it's being built, but they've had an announced temple, but not one yet close by. And so there's been this desire to have the temple and to prepare themselves for that. And so as I mentioned in this ward council meeting as they met, the council talked about what were the main things that they saw that benefited their ward. And these are not necessarily in order, but this is what they said. Again, the desire for a temple in Lisbon. This desire united and strengthened many other things. The entire ward leadership was taught family history first, and then it extended to all the members. As I mentioned, once a month they were doing family history activities. They called 4 to 6 new family history consultants to be able to help. All new members received a personal challenge and call from the bishop to find and start their own family history. All men who were ordained to the priesthood were taught to use family history in their home. By focusing on family history, it helped desire for these members to make covenants and want to go to the temple. And for that desire to want to go to the temple, it then required that they be worthy to have a temple recommend. So one of the things he also said here was, well, then that meant they had to keep the law of tithing. They had to keep the word of wisdom. They had to keep the law of chastity. They strived to keep the Sabbath day holy. They strived to attend their church meetings. They strived to have family prayer. And so this concentration for a year brought about some interesting results. And so he sent then the results of what happened in a year's time frame. And so you may remember we talked about the quarterly reports that you have. And so these are the stats from his quarterly report. So before the focus of family history, they had 9 total submitters in their ward. After a year, they had 70. Converts submitting names to the temple, 2. After a year, 49. Baptisms, well, 198 baptisms submitted. Again, because of so many more people submitting, they're almost at 1,800 baptisms. Converts in their ward, 16 went up to 20. Sacrament meeting attendance went from 106 to 127. So what was interesting to him in this ward council as they sat together was, wow, this focus on family history affected every part of the work of salvation and helped everything increase and be better, and all the things that we're trying to do. As he says here, the results more than verified the numbers in an environment of joy and satisfaction in our ward. And then he says, we have excellent prospects. We've had more harmony. We've had more real growth. The young are securing testimonies. We still have challenges ahead and weaknesses to overcome, mistakes to be corrected. There's still many to rescue, but we have hope and faith. And so it's just neat to see again with this emphasis what they were able to do. So the first individual you have, of course, is your high priest group leader in your ward who can assist and help and oversees this work. You have family history consultants who can help and assist you with this work, and they of course also can be youth. You've got your stake indexing director. You've got your family history center director. So again, as you come together, you have this entire team with the high counselor, high priest group leader, family history consultants. It's not the priesthood leader having to do everything, but he's able to orchestrate it. I love this from Elder D. Todd Christofferson, talking about this team and how it can work together. If I were a bishop again, my approach would be to charge the high priest group leader with the responsibility to lead out in the ward council on this subject. I would ensure that we had 1 or more family history consultants who were people persons who could work under his direction. So one of the examples we have with this is the Laguna Niguel stake in Southern California. Your stake is almost at 28%. You're doing something. He said, well, it's really not me. I said, well, what is it? And he said, well, the best thing for us to do would be to get together on a call and to talk about it. And what they did was they formed a family history committee for the stake, where they get together regularly with those responsible for family history, with the high priest group leaders, and they come share best practices with each other every single time they meet. And as they do that, then it influences them and encourages them to go out and do it. And he says it didn't work all at first. It wasn't like we came together one meeting and all the high priest group leaders ran out and did something. Okay? But as one of them did something and then another one did something and then came back and shared what they were able to do and the success that they had, then the other one got excited to go try it, and he went and tried it in his ward, and so forth. And they had a wonderful mentor to be able to help them and assist them. And she also helped a lot with this, to mentor and teach them. And one of the key things is she taught people, not lessons, and helped them have a good experience finding these things. But this council, this team meets together regularly, and it influenced, and then great things happened. And now the stake is almost at 30%. In really just a year's time frame, they have just gone amazing through this. And I asked him to share with me a few things, and so he sent to me an email, and I just want to read this little thing from just the other day. President Davis said, "We remain very committed to this work. We devoted our entire Saturday evening session of State Conference, which was just recently, to family history and temple, and it was an inspiring session. We had an 8-year-old primary child speak that does family history Sunday morning and loves it. I challenged each member of our stake to find family names this year, and will continue to do it through Ward Conference. The family history work done by the members of our stake has helped them connect spiritually in important ways and has brought protection, especially for the youth. I feel that the 61% of our youth doing family history are accessing important spiritual blessings and protection. Family history and temple work is counterbalancing the evil influence in the world. We love this work." And one of the things I forgot to mention, one of the things that really initially set this off with President Davis is he was in a coordinating council meeting with Elder Haney where the statement was shared with him from Elder Bednar with the protection for the youth. And that's where he decided, we really have to have this, and went back and helped form this committee. So remember, everything we've talked about today and this website, these are resources and tools to help you, to help members have a find, take, teach experience. And so then what is the call to action for you? And I found the best way to do this was to use a short video clip from Elder Clayton. So this is your call to action.
The most important thing to do as leaders is to find your own names to take to the temple yourself, and then to teach others to do the same. Last year, President Dallin Son, who presided in the South Jordan, Utah River Stake, came to ROOTSTECH. He learned and then applied these principles in his stake. He challenged the youth to do 2 things. First, to take their own names to the temple, and second, to add a story about an ancestor to family tree. As part of the youth challenge, he invited the parents to participate in the goals as well. What happened is nearly miraculous. Incredibly, after 1 year, 200 of his youth had submitted at least one name to the temple. That's about 20 youth submitters per ward. From the data, it looks not only like people got a lot more involved in family history, but they also got involved in temple activity. And the motivation and enthusiasm of the youth extended to their family members and other adults in the stake as the youth taught them. That's what we mean by find, take, and teach. That's the power of the rising generation. Make it a priority to have youth find their own names that they can take to the temple. Call them as family history consultants. If circumstances permit, aim for at least 3 family history consultants per ward. Think young men and young women. Have the ward council make assignments to the family history consultants, asking them to focus on helping new converts and recently reactivated members with the family history. Don't just make the assignments and then leave the consultants alone. Make sure the high priest group leader and ward council follow up with them regularly. If you do this, you will see how the Spirit of the Lord will bless the members of your ward, the adults and the youth.
I hope the things that you've been able to hear today, again, have influenced you. You've jotted these down. These revelations that you've received are for you and those that you supervise and those that you have stewardship. And I know that as you do these things as a priesthood leader, that you will see great blessings come to those whom you have stewardship over, as they have the opportunities to find, take, and teach both their family and then others in their circle of influence. And I'm so grateful for this. So in closing, We're going to leave you with just some blessings of family history from various leaders of the church. And again, I thank you so much for being here today.
There is something very, very powerful in searching out someone who needs temple ordinances. This is how you and I become saviors on Mount Zion. There is a joy and satisfaction that is only understood through spiritual feelings. We are linked to them forever. As you seek to contribute to this sacred work, both by finding those needing ordinances and then beginning their work in the temple, your own knowledge and faith in the Savior will increase, and you will receive a more certain witness that life continues beyond the veil. I know that life continues beyond the veil. I know it.
As you respond in faith to this invitation, your heart shall turn to the fathers. The promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob will be implanted in your hearts. Your patriarchal blessing with its declaration of lineage will link you to these fathers and be more meaningful to you. Your love and gratitude for your ancestors will increase. Your testimony of and conversion to the Savior will become deep and abiding.
Do you young people want a sure way to eliminate the influence of the adversary in your life? Immerse yourself in searching for your ancestors. Prepare their names for the sacred vicarious ordinances available in the temple. And then go to the temple and stand as proxy for them to receive the ordinances of baptism and the gift of the Holy Ghost. I can think of no greater protection from the influence of the adversary in your life.
I promise you will be protected against the intensifying influence of the adversary. As you participate and love this holy work, you will be safeguarded in your youth and throughout your lives.